everyone! After a jam-packed first day of our project, we had no choice but to hit the ground running on day 2.
So we hopped in the truck and headed out for our second scenic drive from the town of Silverton to the tiny mountain town of Ophir via Ophir Pass.
Good morning on day 2! Today we do not have a peak to climb, but we have a full agenda. We're going to be hitting up Telluride, some waterfalls, a brewery, a distillery, all kinds of good stuff. So we're headed up right now to go over Ophir Pass, which is a really exciting road. I can't wait to show you guys.
Yay. As with most Jeep roads in the area, four-wheel drive and high clearance never hurt.
The drive up is full of great views, pretty flowers, and a few small water crossings. Until you eventually reach the summit of Ophir Pass at 11,814 feet. We drove over this pass a few weeks prior, and the snowbanks on top were well over 10 feet tall. So we were a bit surprised to see how much snow melting had occurred since then.
So we just came up Ophir Pass from the Silverton side, which is a pretty smooth dirt road. But we're getting ready to drop down into Ophir, which is a little bit rougher. And when we drove this road a few weeks ago, I'm pretty sure we bottomed out our hitch exiting out of one of the big dips. So I'm going to take it off. That should do it.
Heading down from the pass provided lots of great views. I decided to take this time to try something new, flying the drone from the car. Whoa!
Overall, the entire drive is rated as easy. But there's one half-mile stretch where things get pretty narrow and difficult for two-way traffic. The drone footage through this stretch gave a pretty neat perspective on what it's like to drive San Juan Jeep roads.
As we got closer to town, the big open views gave way to gorgeous aspen groves and more water crossings.
After the drive, we continued on to the picturesque town of Telluride and did a short hike up to one of the town's semi-hidden gems, Cornet Falls.
Alright, we're in Telluride and we're about to go show you one of the slightly lesser known waterfalls.
Cornet Falls.
Cornet Falls. It's one Kendrick showed me a couple years ago and it's really pretty, so it's a short hike and we're going to take camera, filters, tripod, because it's water. So let's go take a look.
So this is Cornet Falls, and Cornet Falls is just about a quarter to a third of a mile hike. Kind of steep, but well worth it because it's just gorgeous.
It seems almost impossible to go on a hike in the San Juans without seeing wildflowers, and this hike was no different. We'll be the first to admit that we're no experts when it comes to wildflowers. Luckily, there's several iPhone apps out there that help us identify what we find. With the app, we determine the name of our second wildflower.
So our day 2 flower is the Richardson's Geranium. It is native to Colorado, blooms I think like May through September, and is found in wet areas, which explains why we found it on our hike to Cornet Falls outside of Telluride. Next, we made our way through the heart of Telluride to our third water feature, Bridal Falls. This iconic 365-foot tall waterfall is pretty hard to miss. So Telluride, Colorado is probably one of the most picturesque mountain towns you can imagine. And one of the features that's pretty prominent from just about anywhere in town is Bridal Falls. You can see this thing from, I don't know, Main Street. You can see it from, anywhere. No trip to Telluride is complete without a drive up to the base of the falls.
Right on top of the falls, you see a little white building. It looks kind of like a fancy house, but it's actually a hydroelectric power plant. It was built in 1907 and it was decommissioned in 1953. And now it is a historical site. You can't walk into the building, but you can get right up to it and get a pretty good view. So it's a pretty neat place. All right, here we are at the base of Bridal Falls. You can drive right up. It's about halfway up the road.
If you park your truck close enough, it's a good way to wash it off because there's a lot of spray coming off the falls. So
also, we haven't showered in about 2 weeks, so this is probably good for us. And if standing at the base of Bridal Falls isn't enough, you can drive all the way to the top. Here you get great views of the falls with the power station.
And since we were in the area, we decided to do one of our favorite hikes in Colorado, the Telluride Via Ferrata, which is Italian for the Iron Path. We've done this hike a couple of times now, and it certainly never disappoints. So, after a quick wardrobe change, we put on our harnesses and hit the trail.
The hike starts out innocent enough, taking you along a cliff face on a narrow trail. Eventually, the fun part starts, and you find yourself hanging from metal steps 500 feet off the ground.
After enjoying the mountains and nature, it was time to venture into town. Now, Telluride may look like something out of a dream, but the traffic and summer crowds can sometimes be a nightmare. Rather than trying to find a paid parking spot, we headed to the free car hinge public lot that always has lots of space and decided to walk everywhere.
By this point, we had worked up a little appetite, so we headed to our second featured coffee shop, Baked in Telluride. This place has been around since 1977 and even survived what is likely the biggest structure fire in Telluride back in 2010.
In 2014, I spent the winter living and working in Telluride, and Baked in Telluride was always one of my favorite go-to places. After 2 p.m., all of their breakfast pastries are buy one, get one free. I basically survived this expensive town by eating thousands of calories of pastries every day. Not the healthiest, but it sure was good.
This place had a huge menu, ranging from both sweet and savory baked goods, to sandwiches, pizzas, burritos, soups, salads, and even Mexican food.
When I was working in Telluride, I still lived in the back of my truck. Baked in Telluride always provided me a nice, warm place to hang out in the early mornings over a few cups of coffee and some apple fritters. On our visit, Mandy and I enjoyed some sandwiches, a cup of coffee, and of course, a few of those famous apple fritters. Remember when I said I worked in Telluride? Well, this is where I worked. The gondola between Telluride and Mountain Village.
Annually, about 2.8 million people enjoy the great views of Telluride and the entire valley as you make your way up to the high point, San Sofia Station, at 10,540 feet.
So we are on the gondola that goes between Telluride and Mountain Village. It is free. It's essentially public transportation to get to and from the two places. Workers use it to get to, back and forth to work, and just about everybody uses it. So it's pretty awesome. It's like a 13-minute trip to go from Telluride up and over the mountain and drop down into Mountain Village.
Riding the gondola! As you head down into the resort area of Mountain Village, you can see several 14ers towering in the distance. After arriving in Mountain Village, we had a short walk to our third featured distillery, the Telluride Distilling Company. Day 2, but number 3 distillery, the Telluride Distilling Company.
The distillery has a really nice tasting room, and you can tell that it's the kind of place that's probably packed shoulder to shoulder during ski season.
Telluride Distilling Company has a vodka and a peppermint schnapps, both which are delicious, but you know we were more interested in their whiskey. Our bartender, Colin, was super knowledgeable and told us all about their spirits.
This is the 4th batch of our whiskey. It's 50-50 malted barley and rye. We source our malted barley from Wisconsin, and we get our rye from the eastern slope of Colorado. It's aged for, I believe batch 4 is aged for a little over 4 years. 6 out of every 7 barrels we do in a fresh charred Kentucky oak barrel, and every 7th barrel we do in a port wine barrel that we ship in from Portugal. And then we age it, and then we reblend the wine barrels and the whiskey barrels back together.
And we even got a few summer slushies for dessert.
After sipping on a little whiskey, it was time to head back to the gondola, enjoy the pretty views again, and get back to Telluride. Now, it was time to head to our second featured brewery, the Telluride Brewing Company. This place has been a fixture in Telluride since 2012, and I've been enjoying their beers for just about that entire time, so it was great to finally get to visit the brewery.
While we were there, we got to meet a lot of locals who shared their love for the Telluride Brewing Company.
I love Telluride Brewing because of the high quality bartenders, the high quality beer,
The snacks, man.
the snacks, and the best ambiance in town.
I met everybody I know in Telluride from coming to the brewery.
This is our after work spot for the crowd. Well, there's no crowd here, but lots of good people, good beer, relaxing, lots of laughs. Lots of laughs. Easy way to get over work. True.
So I just love the people. When you ask somebody where they're from, they could be anywhere from within Colorado, across the United States, or across the world. You just never know.
My favorite beer, and it's hard to choose because they're all so good, is the Russell Kelly Pale Ale.
My favorite beer is definitely the Russell Kelly Pale Ale. It is the beer I would have invented on my own, but I didn't have to because it came to Telluride and I met this beer.
The black IPA they make, dank in the dark.
Yep, I like sour beers. They have a Senor Gomez. That's a good one.
One of the guys taught me a new bar game, which, of course, I lost. And, of course, Kendrick got to play around with Larry Bird, the dog.
Now, it was finally time to head back to Little Bear and call it a wrap on day 2. We decided to head back via the scenic drive we did earlier in the morning, Ophir Pass. This route is nearly 50 miles shorter than staying on pavement the entire way. Plus, it was already dark, so the odds of encountering other vehicles on the road was pretty low.
Honestly, my biggest concern going into this project was that I wasn't going to be able to do 14 peaks. And after the first day's hike, I was pretty sore. But this day off rejuvenated me just enough to get excited for the next day's hike. Well, for now anyway. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to follow along with the rest of our Colorado 14er project by subscribing to this YouTube channel. You can read more about each day, find links, learn more about our photography workshops and our guided backpacking trips by going to www.mandyleaphoto.com. And for even more content, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mandy Lea Photo and at Kendrick Calloway. So, here's to 12 more days exploring colorful Colorado. Love and light. I want to say something funny, but I'm not funny. You got the wit.